Awesome.
Excited. Good evening. Hi, everybody. This is part two of our evening tonight. I am so excited. I literally cannot keep calm for this next guest. Um, this today we have for the 7 p.m. section, Dr. Sakeena Kazmi. I'm so thrilled that she could make the time to participate in this series for multiple reasons. First of all, we're both UMES alumni. So my excitement is slightly kind of heightened a little bit because sorry.
This today we have.
Sorry. So it's slightly more heightened because we went to the same school of pharmacy. So for me, I am just so excited that you're here, Sakeena. Thank you so much for making the time to join us today. Um, please start by, I usually ask that if we're joined by anyone, give us a little sound check. Let us know that you can hear both me and Sakeena comfortably so that nobody misses out on anything. An emoji or anything in the comment box to just let us know that sound is great would be awesome, and we greatly appreciate it. Um, and so, Sakeena, we can just start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and getting the people started.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you so much for inviting me, Sally. It's been, I'm really excited to join, and this is such a wonderful series, so I'm really happy to be a part of it. So just a little bit about me. My name is Sakeena. I have spent a majority of my life in Maryland. I'm from Maryland, did the entirety of my schooling in Maryland. I actually attended Towson University for undergrad. I got my Bachelor's of Sciences in Healthcare Management, and then I minored in business and biology. And after undergrad, I actually decided to join the workforce. So I worked in project management for a few years, and it was an amazing experience being able to work with multiple federal contractors. So I worked with the federal government on many projects, the Children's Bureau, what have you. So really amazing, rewarding experiences. But the entire time that I was working in project management, the goal was to always break into the pharma industry. As we all know, pharmaceutical industry has such high barriers of entry. So I kind of decided to leverage my interest in seeking further education, my background in the sciences, my interest in the sciences, and kind of tackle the industry by getting a PharmD. So I went to UMES, went there, and my time in pharmacy school, I really tried my best to grow as a leader. I was part of multiple executive boards. I also tried to really seek those unique and diverse work opportunities to really just diversify my CV. I worked as a special projects coordinator for Aaliyah Horton she's the executive director of Maryland Pharmacists Association. So, I really tried to diversify my CV in that way because it was a 3-year program and we didn't really have summers off to get pharma internships. So I had to do what I had. Then, I kind of started applying last year and was fortunate enough to receive an offer from a wonderful company called Ipsen. This program is in conjunction with Northeastern University, which is the reason why I live in Boston now. But my specific fellowship is in regulatory affairs and medical affairs. I'm in my first year, so I'm completing the regulatory affairs component of this fellowship.
That's so amazing. You just touched on something that went straight to my heart. You work with Aaliyah Horton at MPHA.
Yeah.
I'm such a huge advocate for MPHA because even when I look at my professional career, even from way back as a student pharmacist, MPHA played such a huge role in my growth and development. I really would love for you to just give us a nice little shameless plug why students should really consider becoming involved in their professional organization on a state and local level, and your experiences working with MPHA. That would be so awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. I think that as somebody in the pharmaceutical profession, and many of the reasons why people pursue the pharmaceutical industry is the impact that they're able to have, the widespread and breadth of the impact that they're able to have. Joining a professional organization like MPHA, which works every single day to change the lives of Marylanders and have that large, wide-scale impact. It's kind of, you're pursuing the industry and you're pursuing this MPHA organizational membership for the same reasons. It's for the impact. So I think it's really, really important to support such a wonderful organization. My experience with Aaliyah was amazing. I actually worked to, I contributed to the podcast that she does. And so I had kind of a heavy hand in doing that. So that was really exciting. The purpose of that was to, have pharmacists from different sectors of pharmacy have a conversation with Aaliyah and really just talk about what they do in their lives. There was, pharmacists from every single avenue, every single aspect of pharmacy in that podcast. So that was a really, really wonderful time that I had to work with her.
Absolutely. Yeah. Aaliyah's pretty awesome. She's like one of them. Yeah. And so I'm always curious, and I ask everyone this to kind of know what were in your professional goals that made this particular program a fit for you and what you were looking for, as well as what they were offering, where you kind of recognize that there's a fit here and this is the program I'm going to go with?
That's a really good question. I think, like I mentioned, I was really somebody who was interested in making that wider spread impact. And I think like my interest in a certain therapeutic area was what resulted in me pursuing this fellowship with Ipsen. Ipsen has three major therapeutic areas: neuroscience, oncology, and rare disease. In my final year of pharmacy school, I worked on a project with Dr. Nancy Rodriguez-Weller of UMES, and I worked with dementia patients from the facility that she worked with, and we worked on essentially assessing their utilization of antipsychotic medications on dementia patients specifically. So the therapeutic area of neuroscience was really, really, really close to my heart. And seeing the amazing work that Ipsen had been doing in the neuroscience field is what allowed me to feel that connection. And of course, that connection was definitely felt through the fellowship directors and through the interview process. And that's definitely what solidified my excitement and of course, subsequently, eventually, that job offer. So that's definitely how that was.
That's really amazing. And like you're talking about impactful work. So a lot of students, like what I tend to see as I work with them, you have a CV that's just packed of so many different activities, but then you ask about impact, contribution, and it's like there's nothing there. So I always warn students against that. You want to seek meaningful, purposeful, impactful opportunities and learning opportunities, because that's where your growth is. That's where the real opportunity for you to kind of take a leap forward as a future provider. That's where that exists. So I'm so glad that you're kind of echoing that same theme as well. So tell us a little bit about your year. So it's 2 years. You mentioned a little bit that you're focusing on the regulatory, but I think let's say if there was a P2 or a P1 student who's logging in right now and they're listening, you're using terms like medical affairs and regulatory affairs. In your own words, for somebody who this is their first time engaging with the fellow, what are the descriptions or what are these fields essentially?
That's a really good question. It's a very broad question, but I'll try to answer it as concisely as I can. Regulatory affairs, I think the most important thing that an individual needs to realize that the purpose of regulatory affairs is to reduce risk that a company is taking. So one component of regulatory affairs is called Promotional Review Committee. And in this committee, each asset or each medication, I guess, has thousands and thousands of pieces of promotional pieces that are distributed to healthcare providers to consumers. The FDA has extremely stringent guidelines on how a drug can be promoted and how it can be advertised. And so this committee consists of individuals from many different areas: legal, medical affairs, regulatory affairs, marketing. And in this committee, you come together and you review the promotional pieces through a very, very, very fine-tooth comb, while keeping all the FDA regulations in mind, FDA guidances in mind, and ensure that this piece fits the requirements that FDA has so that the company does not take on any unnecessary risk. Pharmaceutical companies can be, docked points from the FDA, can be given, warning letters, untitled letters, just disciplinary action from the FDA if these pieces are not promoted appropriately. Additionally, there's also a global regulatory component where we are, filing the appropriate forms and following the appropriate processes to ensure that the drug can be authorized or it can be approved by the regulatory bodies of the specific countries. Ipsen specifically has a really large European footprint, so we have our global regulatory department is very, very important, and a component of my fellowship is global regulatory as well.
Gotcha.
So I get to work in that. Medical affairs is something that I'll be exploring a little bit more next year, but it's essentially where you are preparing the medical documents, just all of the pieces that your field representatives will utilize to share with the healthcare providers, so that they're obviously accurate medically, and of course to reduce that risk. So that's a little bit about the two functional areas that I'm working in.
Yeah, very good. So I'm curious. So one of the things that a lot of people who are interested in fellowship, some of the reservations that they have, many people, it's that they didn't have enough pharmaceutical industry rotation experiences. It's like, my CV doesn't have much. I only had one rotation. For some other people, it's just that they feel like they don't have many of these boxes that they've checked in order to make themselves extremely competitive. I'm really curious about if you have any insight or any advice that you can offer anyone that's a prospective candidate who could kind of be feeling some of this anxiety around the application process.
That's a great question, and I think there's so much to speak on this. I myself am not somebody who had any industry rotations. I had like an FDA rotation scheduled in February, so it was of no value to me during the application process. I think I want to emphasize that you absolutely do not need industry experience to qualify for a fellowship. I'm conducting recruitment right now. I look at every single CV that comes through, and something that we emphasize is not to dock points or overlook a candidate because they do not have industry experience. But I will say, you definitely have to have experiences to kind of, I don't want to say compensate, but you have to show that, you've been doing other things to fill up your time. And that's kind of the reason why I spoke to diverse work experiences earlier. Yeah. You have to be able to compensate for your lack of industry experience with those diverse work experience. You have to look out for internships, for opportunities. If you are an executive board member, you have to do, like we talked about earlier, that meaningful work to be able to speak to that stands out in your CV, that stands out in your cover letters. Yeah. So I think that diversity is really important, a lot more important than you would think. And if you tactfully and strategically approach diverse opportunities, you will absolutely be successful in getting those phone screens. And let me be honest, once you get those phone screens, that's what you need, because then you need your personality, that your personality is going to shine, your interview skills are going to shine, and your CV is something of, I don't want to say of the past, but it's really your interview skills that are shining through.
Absolutely. So important. Interview skills. People are so anxious about the interview process. It's this huge thing. Everybody celebrates it, and then it hits them like, oh my God. So they want to talk to me. Mm-hmm. How do I talk to them back so that I can convey what I want to convey, and that passion and enthusiasm for the opportunity can get received the way I want to? What do you think were some things that you can offer some of the prospective candidates about interviewing and how they should approach interviewing as a whole, as a process in this whole thing?
That's a really good question. Everybody has a different process. I've actually met some fellows who would write down answers to any potential question and then memorize those answers before their interview. That was definitely not something I did, but because I don't have the patience for that, for something like that. But, you know, that has worked for some people. They've gotten some really, really great opportunities through that pursuit. For me, I think it's really understanding your story.
Yeah.
Really understand what you stand for, really understand, you know, what you're trying to achieve, why you're trying to achieve it. And for me, once I understood the reason why I want to pursue a fellowship, what my passions were and how my passions aligned with what this role was and how I was the only person that could bring my qualities to the role. Something that I spoke about, for example, was my adaptability. The fact that I worked in a corporate environment and then I gave it all up to go to pharmacy school, and then I excelled in pharmacy school.
Yeah.
I really, really talked about that. And adaptability is such a valuable characteristic that
100%.
companies want. You know, they want you to be able to adapt from one project to another, from one manager to another, from one working style to another. And I really spoke to that, and that really resonated because that was so important to my story, to my narrative.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to understand your narrative and be able to speak to it. I mean, you can write down your narrative as many times as you want, as long as you can speak to it in a concise and articulate manner. Make sure it's genuine, make sure it's your story.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm almost like wanting to jump up in a praise dance because I feel like I go on and on and on about clarity of purpose so much. I always start with anybody, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? And what is your story? Because being able to say why or being clear about the reason why you are taking this step is going to blow a lot of doors open for you because many people are going to be twisting in the wind and just flapping all over, unable to clearly state with confidence why they are taking this step.
Yeah.
So all of what you're talking about and the fact that telling your story and the power of your story, understanding what that story is and the ability to articulate and convey that, I couldn't agree with you more. I almost wanted to like stand up and start cheering because it's I go on and on and on about this so much. And I think it's one of those it's not emphasized enough in the interview prep process.
Mhm.
Everybody really focuses on the the situational stuff. Tell me about a time when, because these
Right.
questions, yeah, these questions genuinely freak people out. They're nervous and they draw a blank and they can't
Right.
think of an example when they have multiple. But not enough time goes into taking a step back and being clear so
Mhm.
you are asked why this position, why this company, why are you doing a fellowship, that you're able to clearly articulate that and place that within the context of what your story is. It's a very powerful and profound strategy for interviewing effectively.
Absolutely.
I was like, I just got very excited a little bit
Yeah.
there. Another thing, like, I think that because I know you and I know you and we've talked about this a little bit, but students, I talk to some students or prospective candidates, they're very clear about the fact that diversity, representation, inclusion, these things are important to them. They have some reservations or they're nervous that if they articulated that these things or these were values that they held very dearly to themselves, it could box them in, it could cause them to get categorized. They may potentially not get an offer because they were too forthcoming with what
Mhm.
what they want to see in the industry, what they hope to represent, and what they hope to advocate for.
Right.
I think like you're one of those super powerful voices out there, and I have so much respect for you. I just want you to share a little bit about pointers or advice or even why this is important as you see it in the pharmaceutical industry today.
That's a great question. You know, diversity is it is so important, and not only your diversity in the literal sense of the word, but diversity of experiences, diversity of backgrounds, and that's something that is only going to make an industry better, right? And there's the reality is that, you know, you can choose to speak to it or you can choose not to. It's really a very personal decision, but you know, if you find a team that values you because of your narrative, That's what you need essentially. And the only way that you're going to be able to find that team is to put yourself out there. You cannot, reserve yourself to be like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. When you just simply don't know. Ipsen, for example, I was, speaking to you earlier about it. Ipsen puts such a huge emphasis on diversity and inclusion. And it's for that reason that our fellowship directors have decided not to recruit at mid-year, because there are students that, maybe may not be capable of making it to mid-year. There's students like who belong to accelerated programs who simply don't have the time to attend mid-year, and so something that really resonates with Ipsen is ensuring that candidates are our candidate pool is not limited by something like mid-year, which is why our recruitment is 100% virtual. And that's just something that's really, really important to us. And yeah, so I think it's really important that if you value your story and your narrative, this first step is to really put yourself out there and to let your story be heard.
Yeah. Let your story be heard. That is the theme. That is the overarching theme today. Let your story be heard. So as far as you guys' application process, is the application cycle open yet? When does it close? And are you open to having prospective candidates reach out to you at all throughout their process?
Yes, absolutely. Our applications are open. They opened, I think, on the 21st. And, we have some amazing positions that have opened up. Ipsen has actually been expanding their fellowship program. So previously, last year, we only recruited for a medical affairs, regulatory affairs position, but this year we added commercial oncology, and we actually have one more position that we're adding. The brochure will be updated and uploaded within the week, and it's an amazing fellowship within the global medical affairs sector. So we're really excited to share that with everybody. And yes, I'd be happy to receive any inquiries from prospective candidates. Would love to share any additional information. It's kind of a crazy recruitment season, so maybe a few days until I get back to you, but I'll definitely try to get back to everyone that's interested. We really just want as many interested candidates to apply, and we want to give everyone an opportunity to be able to speak for themselves and share with us, why you'd be a good fit.
I'm so happy you're in a place that values you and you're super special talent. Cannot wait to see what you do next. I'm so happy for you and I'm rooting for you, but you already know that. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Anyone at all, I can attest to this. Sakeena's like the coolest person ever. If you have questions or need help or guidance, please reach out to her. I'm very happy. Once the brochure gets updated, I'll keep an eye out for it. Once you share, I'll make sure to reshare that. So anybody, just part of my audience, is able to know that the new position's been added and posted. So grateful and so happy for you. They're so lucky. So I'm so happy that you're doing well and you're thriving, and enjoy Boston.
Thank you. It's amazing.
Boston, but
it's definitely getting chilly. I'm definitely not used to that, but it's okay.
Okay. I love your attitude. Have a great rest of your evening. So great. Thank you for joining us, Sakeena.
Take care, Sally. Have a good one. Bye.